Chase Thomas the Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ, with my good friend down there, and fellow University of North Georgia alumni, Matt Green, is here. Matt, good evening, sir. How are you? Oh, you're muted on the intro. He muted himself on the intro.
On the intro. Do we need to run this back?
No, I can't do that. You were flexing and really excited about something, and the good folks on youtube.com/Chase Thomas podcast got a treat there, because I had no idea what Matt was doing there. So you got to start from the beginning, Matt.
I was just simply commenting that I'm repping my UNG colors tonight on the pod. Still undefeated in college football history, but man,
people do forget that.
It's good to be back. How you been?
Busy. What a week. This has been a busy week, but not too bad. And it's a bye weekend this weekend for Tennessee, so that'll be nice to kind of let the guys get healthy and get ready for the next 2 weeks with A&M and Alabama. One at home, one on the road.
We got some playoff baseball this weekend, man.
It's true.
These playoff games, a bunch of 2-and-dones in these wild card series, but I'm excited for it. The energy around playoff baseball is just like, it reminds you how good of a sport baseball is. It's such a long season, you know. They got the dog days of summer, but once the playoff, the atmosphere, it's different.
I forget, like, Georgia fans don't get because y'all don't have the everything school situation down there, so you kind of go into hibernation during baseball season at the college level. So for me, like, Are you trying to
tell me that Knoxville, Tennessee is not Braves country, sir? How dare you? Knoxville, Tennessee, if they could choose a volunteer College World Series or Braves World Series, they're taking the Braves.
No.
They're all Braves fans. Come on.
There's a lot of Cubs. I mean, the Smokies are right here, and the Smokies are the Cubs AA affiliate.
Whatever. You guys enjoy being pretty good at everything. You know, we'll enjoy winning championships down here in the state of Georgia.
Wow. I mean, we're just making Omaha.
The team of the Southeast, man. Come on. The Braves are what unite the SEC. All these big time rivalries and, you know, just hate each other on fall Saturdays. The Braves bring us all together.
Hey, you're inventing these arguments, sir. I wasn't going against the Braves or anything. I am merely saying that I have been prepped for playoff baseball, that being an Everything School alumni, you get to enjoy playoff baseball multiple times each year, and high intensity baseball.
You can enjoy that all you want, but it doesn't compare to Ronald Acuna. The Tennessee Volunteers don't have a Matt Olson on their squad. They don't have a Spencer
they did have a Drew Gilbert last year.
And you're telling me he's better than Matt Olson? Is that what you want to tell me?
I would say Drew Gilbert, there were some similarities, personality-wise, not even close to the same person, but Drew Gilbert, clutch moments, hitting dingers, lefty, masher, fan favorite.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm excited for the Braves on Saturday. Hopefully it works out. We were talking about it pre-show. Hopefully we get that 4:30 first pitch, and then it can work out if that Braves at 7 o'clock. But it is unfortunate because I wish we could just avoid Saturdays in general for Braves games. But having to compete with A&M, Alabama, that 3:30 slot, and then also watching the Braves, you know, this is what we got to do when you get a big time championship squad.
That's right. Matt Green, our week 5. Is it week 5 already? Are we in week 5? No,
we're in week 6.
Week 6. That's right. Week 6. I said that out loud, and I was like, no, it's week 6, man. We are in week 6. The college football season nearly halfway complete because the season just goes fast. I mean, you look at the high school level, and most are on fall break here, and you look at it and you're like, oh, man, there's like 3 or 4 games left in the regular season for high school. And it's pretty wild to see how quickly football goes, but we say it every year. Make sure to sit down, smell the leaves, drink some coffee, and enjoy it as the fall leaves change and everything else, because it will be gone before you know it. So enjoy this stretch run here over the next 2 months, because hold it tight and it will be gone before you know it. Matt Green.
It's always depressing when people are like, because we're always counting down. We're like, 46 days away till college football season.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I remember someone saying like the week before the season started, it's like 100 days till the season's over, or like 90 days till the season's over. Like, oh wow, I don't want to get that far ahead of myself.
Yeah, I agree. Matt Green, before we get into our week 6 pick'em, would you like to refresh the good folks how we are doing at this point in the college football season, and where the standings currently sit going into week 6 here?
Yes, sir. So you are currently holding a 1-game lead overall and against the spread. So on the season, you are 41-14 to my 40-15. And against the spread, you are 33-21-1 to my 32-22-1. So we're winning the people some money out here. And Zeus, don't forget about Zeus, 6-1 with his home dog of the week on the season. He's just killing it per usual, just winning the people money.
I just don't think, my gut tells me we're going to agree a lot this week, Matt Green. Not to bury the lead here in the show, but a lot of interesting lines this week. And last week, a lot of the better teams won. Didn't have a lot of upsets this past week. And my gut tells me that we're not going to see a lot this week either. We have some big games coming up in the next few weeks, but I think this week is one of those where I don't know if we're going to see some big upsets.
Yeah, it felt like a lot of dangerous matchups too last week with ranked teams going on the road, and no one really, like Auburn definitely gave it the best shot to shock the college football world, but no one really. Am I forgetting somebody? Nobody, like there was no. I mean, I guess Ole Miss, they were the field rushing game, but like, what was this? What were they? Were they favored? They weren't favored. LSU was like a 2-point favorite,
yeah,
I think
3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like it was right there. Anytime Ole Miss beats LSU, it's like it's gonna feel like an upset. It's like a South Carolina beating Florida or something in 2021. It's like, okay, I know this was a big deal to you guys, but that team wasn't very good. But hey, not to rain on their parade. Ole Miss big time win for sure at home.
Matt Green, where are we going first?
Let's start on Friday night. I love a big time weekday game. We got Kansas State going on the road at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's a 12.5-point home dog in this one. And you know how I feel about a weekday road game for a favored team. How do you see this one going?
I'm concerned where you think this is going, because that means we might be on opposite ends here. Matt Green, I don't understand why Kansas State's not ranked. They've been a very good team. They're one of the 25 best teams in the country this year. I don't really understand with the Mizzou loss, because Mizzou's undefeated right now, and that Mizzou loss doesn't look nearly as bad as it looked like in the moment a few weeks back. They're a good team.
What I think is working against them is the bye week. They've already had the bye week, so it's like when there's some change in the rankings, like they weren't playing last week, but yeah, they definitely feel like a top 25 team. Also, Han, before we get into that, have you heard all the LSU hatred this week for being like in the top 25? Like, can't put 3 and 2 teams in the top 25. They've lost 40% of their games. That's a stat I've heard. I don't know how many people say, how can you be a top 25 team when you've lost 40% of your games? Like, these teams don't play the same schedules. Like, we all know this. Like, LSU is a top 25 team. I'm sorry. Like, if Kansas State had played Florida State and Ole Miss to this point, they could easily have 2 losses. A lot of teams could have 2 losses. So I don't know. That's one that'll grind my gears, I guess. I've just heard so many people talking about LSU this week and not being ranked. Like the Josh Pate, I'll steal it for a quote from Josh Pate. It's like, you're not what your record says you are in college football. It's not that simple. Like, it's so many different strengths of schedules and everything. So yeah, that was my whole thing. I'll give back to you. Let's talk Kansas State, Oklahoma State.
Well, I think the gripe there is you're projecting LSU as a top 25 team, that they have top 5 talent, that if they do play a easier schedule, they're clearly in the top 25. I think that's more of the annoyance from fans who are complaining about LSU still being in the top 25 to me, which I think actually is a fair comparison. We've talked about on this show over the years, is that like you play the games for a reason. The games have to matter and the results have to matter. So penalizing them, also, it doesn't matter. Like, who cares if LSU, you take them out of the top 25 this week? they can easily earn their way back in very soon. They're LSU. They'll find a way back. If they're really good, guess what? They'll win a couple in a row, and then suddenly they're 6-2 and they're in the top 10 again. So I think part of the issue there is like, hey, when they actually do lose a couple games early, when some of these teams do actually fumble and lose games on their actual schedule, maybe hit them a little bit, because guess what? It doesn't matter. Like, why are you holding up? Like, I understand the argument that their schedule is different, but 2 losses is 2 losses, and the games have to matter. The results, I should say, have to matter at some point. So they've lost 2 games, and there are some better teams that have only lost 1 game, and they might be worse on paper, and we wouldn't pick them to beat LSU. But like, at some point, the results have to matter a little bit. And I think that's more of the gripe there. It's like, what are we playing the game for if like LSU can be like 4-3 and still top 25
team?
You
know, once they're 4-3, they're not. You know, it's like, it's still early enough that I feel like the preseason rankings still matter. It's like Florida State, 10, 15 people, or no, that's Texas, but a handful of people think Florida State is the number 1 team in the country. So it's like, it's just the way we do the polls is always just blows my mind. Like if the number 20 loses number 1 by 1 touchdown, they're out of the top 25. It's like, if anything, this team is probably better than we thought they were, but we gotta jump them out. So I don't know. It's definitely an inexact science, but it's like, that's what we always do in college football. It's like, we're projecting, and we know how good of LSU's players are and how many projected NFL players they have on the roster. It's like Louisville and Fresno State are ranked right now. Like, yeah, they're both undefeated, but does one person in the world think those teams are better than LSU? Like, they're not ranked higher, but it's like, that's the teams that are barely sneaking in the top 25. It's Maryland, Kansas State being held out, but A&M, I guess, is one that I'm kind of surprised isn't ranked right now. But I don't know. It's like you said, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter 5 weeks into the season.
No. Back to Kansas State though, and they should be ranked. That was a nice way of saying, Kansas State, I got your back. You should be ranked, and LSU should not. Oklahoma State is 102nd in total offense this year. The Mike Gundy offense is really broken. Alan Bowman's been the QB a little bit. They've played some musical chairs there. It's kind of baffling to see Oklahoma State in this level of disarray. It's like, you don't know if you're watching Oklahoma State or Iowa State, and Iowa State also just beat the Cowboys. Not great all across the board. They've lost to Iowa State and South Alabama in succession. South Alabama was 33-7 at home. That's just an all-time bad loss. Not even close against a G5 opponent. Then you look at the rest of the schedule, Matt Green, it could get really ugly for Oklahoma State. This looks like 3-9 to me, and then I don't know what Gundy's future looks like in Stillwater, but the Wildcats are averaging 40 points a game, and here's the thing. Oklahoma State hasn't scored 30 in a game in nearly a full year, Matt Green. This is not the Zach Robinson, Justin Blackman, Oklahoma State Cowboys. I don't see a path that they compete in this game. I don't see a path that this game's close. Give me Kansas State 45, Oklahoma State 20.
Have you learned nothing, sir? Have you learned nothing of the weekday road game? It is the hardest thing to do in college football. I can't explain what happened to Oklahoma State. What were they? Who was it that they lost to? Was it Texas or someone they lost, or Kansas State maybe last year? They were ranked like 10th, I want to say, like 6-1 or something to start the year last year, and just was it 6-1? Yeah, 6-1 to start the year last year, and just fell off a cliff. And they're like not the same program anymore. The weekday road game is literally the only avenue I see that it's just like something weird happens. It's hard to go on the road. I don't know. The crowds, hype on a Friday night. But with that said, I just can't pick Oklahoma State to win. So I'm going to pick Oklahoma State to cover because, 2 touchdowns, that might be a little much. Maybe they can keep it close. What did I write down? 27, like a 27-20 or something like that. And so give me Kansas State to win, but Oklahoma State to cover. But yeah,
Man,
Oklahoma State's just a real bad team. They're real bad.
But it's also Kansas State's coming off a bye. I think that's the thing that gets them out of the Friday look ahead.
They are both coming off a bye, though.
Oh, yeah.
So there is, I don't know. That you're right, though, in terms of like they are prepared. It's not a short week or anything. And Oklahoma State is just not a good team. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if if they pull a South Alabama on them as well. But let's keep it moving to our game of the week. The Red River Shootout, sir. This is always one of the best games of the year, it feels like. Oklahoma comes in. Both these teams are undefeated. Texas is a 6.5-point favorite in this one. How do you see it going, sir?
Definitely the most difficult to pick this week because, I mean, Texas won 49-0 last year. It wasn't close. OU's defense was an absolute train wreck all year long. OU has dominated to this point in the year. I think my question to you that you can answer in a second is this a sneaky more important win for Texas or Oklahoma this particular year? But I have questions. Like, is OU's defense for real? Now they're playing bigger competition. Does Brent Venables have this group ready to go? Texas has played just so many backup quarterbacks in a row. They played Bean last week instead of Daniels. Still drub Kansas. That's not really their fault that Texas keeps getting backup quarterbacks in succession, but that's just kind of what has happened here. Baylor, Wyoming as well. But Dylan Gabriel is another big factor to me because I don't think he's played this level of defense to this point. And what does he look like? Because we've seen the low of lows of Dylan Gabriel at Oklahoma, but he's been rolling this season. Like, he has 728 yards, 7 total touchdowns. Through 5 games, he's got 75%, completing 75% of his passes, 1,500 yards, 15 TDs. He's running the ball really well, but I don't know if all that continues. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that against Texas. My gut says no, and my gut says that they're going to be hit in the mouth in a different way, and I'm curious to see how the Sooners respond to Texas in this one. When Texas has just kind of they have CFP aspirations. They could be the best team in the country, and this is a big final statement game for them outside of Kansas State. If you win this, if you're Texas, I mean, you're really staring at 12-0, walking in the Big 12 title game and feeling really good about your CFP chances. But if you lose this one, then hey, you can't drop a Kansas State game. You can't lose in the Big 12 title game. You can't have that second blemish and still expect to make the CFP. So I think it's a gigantic game for the Horns in this one. And I think Oklahoma, it's still year 2. They're kind of ahead of schedule. They're definitely better than they were a year ago, but they're 53rd in pass defense. So I think Quinn Ewers is going to feast on this Oklahoma secondary. I think this is going to be a big Quinn Ewers game. I think this is going to be Dylan Gabriel just isn't the guy, and Jackson Arnold's eventually going to be the guy. And I think that's when we really see what Oklahoma can be in the Venables era. So my gut says this is closer than last year, but I still think Texas ultimately wins and covers. So give me Texas 42, Oklahoma 38.
You said 42-38?
Yeah, I think Oklahoma covers.
So you said Oklahoma does cover. Okay. See, I could definitely see it going that way. And I think what it comes down to is if this game, because, I mean, we don't know a lot about this Will Venables Oklahoma team. Or I say Will Venables. Brent Venables. Will Venables, he played for the Padres. You look at this Brent Venables team, and it feels like kind of what you were saying, the coach under the most pressure. It kind of feels like the dynamic of Josh Heupel versus Billy Napier, like the guy in year 2. Only it's not nearly as negative at Oklahoma than it was Florida. Like, this guy is off to the good start in year 2, but it's like this is definitely Heupel's, not Heupel, in that scenario. This is definitely Sarkisian's opportunity to, okay, we're better than Oklahoma right now. We have to win this and be on our way to winning the Big 12 and going to the playoff. And because this is our year to do it. Oklahoma, they're still rebuilding. It's year 2 and it's nice, but Texas has to win this game. Like, I think Sarkisian, that's because Sarkisian is that coach that's under a different kind of pressure than other guys. It's not hot seat pressure, but he is under that pressure to, like, okay, is this the year you become a national title contender? And they look like maybe the best team in college football right now. So I just think, depending on how this game is played, this Oklahoma defense is improved, but how improved are they? If they're able to get Texas in this ground and pound slugfest, like, I feel like that advantage goes to Texas because Jonathan Brooks is averaging over 100 yards a game this year. Like, so it feels like Texas does that better. They also have a solid defensive line of their own. But also, if this thing becomes a track meet, like, that's definitely advantage Texas. So with Xavier Worthy, AD Mitchell, like I just don't think there's any way that Oklahoma can slow them down. So I think it'll be a close game. Like it'll be an entertaining back and forth game, but I think Oklahoma or Texas, I think ultimately pulls away. So I'm going to take Texas to win and cover. Give me like a 38-28 type of game. I think Texas takes care of business.
All right, there you go. Where are we going next, Matt Green?
All right, now to our 3:30 CBS game, sir. Alabama Crimson Tide go on the road at Texas A&M. Aggies are a home dog, 2.5 points in this one. How do you see this game going, sir?
Last 3 times they've met, A&M's been unranked, and Alabama has been ranked. So I thought that was interesting that Texas A&M never is ranked coming into this game for whatever reason.
Alabama hasn't been unranked since 2007 or something.
Right. Well, they might be in jeopardy if they drop this one, and with Tennessee staring down the barrel in 2 weeks. So we'll see if that's in play. But Bama, I think, is at a crossroads here. I think we finally will know exactly what Alabama is this year in this game. I think this is just the most important game of the weekend in college football, because I think this sets the stage for the back half of the SEC, where Bama wins this
game.
It is an elimination game. And I think if Bama wins this game, you're right. The CFP is right there. You're probably going to run the gauntlet. You get LSU at home. You're going to be playing Georgia in the SEC title game, and you missed it last year. You get them there, and then that's your destiny. You beat Georgia, you're in the college football playoff once again, and maybe the favorite to win the college football playoff once again. On the flip side, you drop this one. We haven't seen Nick Saban lose 2 games before November in a very long time at the University of Alabama. Then you're like, oh, LSU's on the table, Tennessee's on the table, like Auburn's on the table. Like you're suddenly thinking 8-4. I mean, it's going to be almost impossible to just stay at 9-3. It's kind of interesting that depending on which way this game goes, will tell us if this is going to be the worst season for Nick Saban in a very, very long time in Alabama, or they got through all their stuff. Jalen Miller has got command of this offense. The offensive line's a lot better. They handle A&M's front a lot better, and they are just they're more equipped to what people thought the murder ball machine was going to be. But they're still ranked 55 in rushing offense. They're 104th in passing offense. They're 51st in scoring. Like, it's not like we have a small sample. This is 5 games, Matt Green. I mean, A&M, they're 20th against the run, 9th against the pass, 33rd in scoring. Like, I don't know. I think that they're not going to be able to run on Bama, A&M that is. I think they're going to have to pass their way to a victory here. Zach Calzada did it at home 2 years ago. I don't know. I also think this is fascinating. The home teams won the last 2 times in this matchup, but also the last 2 times, this game has ended on the final play. Do you remember last year? A&M was right there to win this game or to win this game a year ago. Like, this was right there.
This is the Milroe game.
Yes.
A year ago.
And this came down to the final play. This game's going to be close again. This is going to be a bloodbath in the trenches. I'm curious to see what Milroe does with this kind of defensive front in front of him, because A&M is loaded at that spot. All that being said, until it happens, until Nick Saban drops 2 games before November, I can't do it. I think the away team gets the victory for the first time in a little bit here. I think Alabama wins 31-30. It's going to be something weird, but I think Alabama wins, but A&M covers.
Okay, so the last 3 seasons, which I think is like kind of the start of the decline of Alabama, it's just of them being mortal again, just not murdering everybody they played. They've averaged 36.2 points at home, and they've averaged 36.1 points on the road. Against Power 5 competition. But the only difference, at home, they're giving up 19.4. They're at 9-1 at home. On the road, they're giving up 27.1, and they're 7-3 on the road the last 3 seasons. So I just look at this. The part I disagree with you about is, like, I don't think this is like necessarily a crossroads of Alabama's season, that this tells you if they lose this game, like, now all these other losses are on the table. Like, I think all these other toss-up games are already on the table. I think there's a chance if they lose this game, A&M is just the best team in the SEC West this year, and Alabama could just be the second best team in the West. So I don't necessarily think that now the LSU or Tennessee is a toss-up game if they lose this one. I think those might be toss-up games anyway, that Alabama's just, they can win all these games, but they might be able to lose them as well. And that's not something we're kind of used to, of these just kind of maybe going back and forth. But I think this is kind of one of the games I talked about, that a team that's good on both sides of the ball, like, and for one, A&M has scored in their, I think in every game, but specifically on their 3 games versus actual Power 5 competition, they've scored on their first 2 possessions every single game this year. So I think that's something that I'm really looking forward to, because if they can get Alabama in a 14-0 hole, like, and some of those have been field goals, a 10-0 hole, where like, you're not just going to be able to run at the, and obviously a first quarter game, you're down 14 points. You don't have to give up on the run or anything, but it's going to be, that sense of urgency with the offense. And when you're starting to like, okay, we're going to have to pass the ball to keep up with A&M. These are the kind of games that I worry about Jalen Milroe. If they're able to have a 0-0 game at the end of the first, and, just him be running zone reads and going 12 of 15 in this game for 150 yards. It's like, but he has 100 yards rushing. It's like, that's how Alabama can win. But with what Texas A&M has been so far, it's tough to know what they are on the defensive side of the ball. Like, they obviously got torched by Miami, and there were some weird things that happened in the Miami game too, special teams touchdowns and stuff. But I think with what I've seen from A&M the last couple weeks and what we've seen from Alabama, I don't think Alabama's got I don't think they have the guys in the secondary to shut down these A&M receivers, for one. I think Max Johnson, they surprisingly don't really drop off with Max Johnson from Connor Weigman. There's a different style, but probably one of the more reliable backups in the entire SEC. Definitely one of the more experienced backups with Max Johnson. So I think I'm going to have to go with Texas A&M as my home dog of the week. I like Texas A&M winning this one like 24-17 or something. I think this is going to be a game that Milroe struggles and more is put on his plate to actually throw the ball. And I don't think Alabama has the weapons to get into any kind of track meet with A&M. I think they're going to have to run the ball. And I think that's where A&M can have some success. And yeah, I don't think Alabama can win this game. So give me Texas A&M to win outright, home dog of the week.
Wow. No, I think there is a drop off. Connor Weigman was a really good quarterback, maybe one of the, if not the most talented quarterback this year in the SEC. It's a drop off. Now, like, I'm picking A&M to win this game if Weigman's healthy. Like, that's part of it for me. Max Johnson's going to do some crazy stuff in this one. I think Alabama's going to make him do some crazy stuff. So I can't do it. I don't like it. I wanted to pick A&M. I had them before the year winning the national title. Weigman going down, it's just not the same team. Like, they're good. They're a really good team still. 9-3, 10-2 type good. But I don't think they have the QB. He's just not the guy.
And even last week, like at Mississippi State, it's like it ended up a pretty lopsided, final score. But like Alabama wasn't dominating that game. Like the offense was not just clicking. So this atmosphere at Texas A&M is a whole nother beast than this Cowbells at Mississippi State. Like you saw what Zach Calzada could rise to against a better Alabama team. That was a better Alabama team in 2021 and a worse Texas A&M team, and they were able to beat them. So I think Bobby Petrino is going to have something dialed up for this Alabama secondary. I think they're going to get the job done.
All right, where are we going next, Matt Green?
All right, next let's go to LSU at Missouri. Excuse me. Mizzou is a 6.5 point home dog in this one. And did your boy try to tell you about Brady Cook this offseason? No one else wanted to hear it. I told you, hey, this Missouri guy, he might be all right. I wasn't very bullish on him, but I felt like I respected that he was he's a solid player. But Missouri comes in this one 5-0. LSU, obviously, we talked about 3-2. How How do you see this one? How do you see this one going?
Mizzou, this is a big game for Mizzou. 6.5, that's a lot of respect for LSU coming in there. I think between Mizzou and Kentucky, I've talked about this in this show. I'm a bigger believer in Mizzou this year than Kentucky. We'll see how that ultimately plays out. But they had 532 yards of offense last week against Vanderbilt. They had 300. They only gave up 300 yards to Vanderbilt. And the Vanderbilt offense is a little bit peskier than you might think with Seals or Swan, depending who's under center. But that offense making some strides. The defense has been weirdly really bad under Clark Lee this year. But Missouri leads the nation in opponent-adjusted pressure rate, Matt Green. Like, Tennessee gets to the quarterback, but Mizzou does too. And Mizzou is going to give Jalen Daniels problems. We know Jalen Daniels is not fearful of crazy contact with defenders in the sport, so he's probably going to take some bad shots in this one because it seems like he just can't help himself. Is this the week he gets knocked out because he keeps taking crazy shots running the ball? Because Jalen Daniels is one of the best players with the ball in his hands. Thin frame, he's going to get hit. Like, Missouri is going to get home. They are going to get pressure on Jaden Daniels in this game. And I'm curious, like, week to week, I'm just like, if he goes down, what happens? Is Nussmeier going to be able to keep this season afloat for the Tigers? I also think you mentioned Brady Cook. Him and Jaden Daniels, this is a top 3 quarterback matchup in the sport. So a lot of people, like, if you want to see the best of the best in terms of quarterback play in the conference
top
this year,
3 what?
At quarterback. They're
in the country?
No, in the SEC.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they're in the top 3. It's Brady Cook, Jaden Daniels, and Spencer Rattler. That's been the top 3 quarterbacks to this point in the year. Although Spencer's struggles and rough Super Bowl comments over the weekend, he has to drop down a little bit. But hey, Super Bowls, we love them here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Here are the quarterbacks I saw. This was on Twitter that I saw was interesting. FBS quarterbacks with 100-plus pass attempts and 0 INTs this year. Drew Aller, Brady Cook, Sam Hartman, Cam Ward. End of list. Brady Cook's going to take care of the ball. He's not going to beat himself and screw the Tigers. Luther Burden's been really, really good and been unguardable. LSU, I don't think is going to have a really fun time with Mizzou here on the road. I think this is going to be close throughout, but I still have a hard time believing LSU loses back-to-back here at 3 losses before November. I think they get it done, but I think this might be a last-second field goal or something for LSU. So give me LSU to win and Mizzou to cover. Something like, I'm going to say this is really high scoring. I'm going to say LSU 48, Mizzou 45.
Oh, wow. That is not really how I see this game going, to be honest. I think as good as Missouri's been through these first few games, like that Vanderbilt game was like a close game in the fourth quarter, like a 10-point game in the fourth quarter, like beat Memphis by a touchdown, like beat MTSU by 4, like Kansas State, they needed a 60-yarder to beat them at the end. So like, obviously Kansas State's a good win, their best win of the season, but I'm not really buying the Missouri hype. I think as much as I was trying to hype up Brady Cook, I think he's been solid this year. Luther Burden has been, looking like the superstar he was supposed to be coming out of high school. But they're not going to be able to stop this LSU offense. Like, as much as like we want to talk about LSU, like, I don't know, like they're going off the rails or something. It's like this team lost what was the final score last week? 55-49 a week ago. It's like, that's a wild game at Ole Miss. Like, this offense is not Ole Miss. Like, I don't think Missouri is going to be able to match that at all. Like, I don't see Missouri keeping them under like 40 points. So I think it's like a 41, like, I don't know, 41-27. Like, I think LSU wins this one like by multiple scores.
Wow.
Although
I'll be surprised.
Missouri did win during the pandemic at Mizzou last time these two teams played.
I also just wouldn't be surprised if Mizzou wins this game outright. Like, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I'm not gonna put my name on it, but folks, don't be surprised if Mizzou actually just wins this game. I think Mizzou's just actually good. Kirby Moore's been a great OC hire for Eli Drinkwitz this offseason. Big hire for him, Kellen Moore's brother. It's working. Where are we going next, Matt Green?
No, that's fair. They definitely could. I'm not buying them this early on. Like they're 5-0. It's a good start, good story, but we'll see. LSU's got, I think, a few more dudes. But let's keep it moving. You ready to keep it moving?
Yeah. Where are we going?
Our primetime ESPN game. Keep it in the SEC. Kentucky Wildcats coming to Athens, Georgia. 14.5-point home favorite, the Georgia Bulldogs in this one. What is your? So let me preface it real quick. Georgia's won 13 straight in this series. Kentucky has not scored more than 20 points since 2016 against Georgia. How do you see this game going, Chase?
I think Kirby belongs in prison. I think Kirby
right?
Smart belongs in prison. That's the only way we're going to be able to solve this nonsense that's coming out each and every week. Matt Green, I've been disgusted about some of the comments that have come out over the years. The 7-5, the nobody believed in us. Now we've got everybody in the SEC should be ranked.
That was Nolan Smith, and he even said no one ever said that.
Here's what we're saying. Every SEC team should be ranked. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
What are we doing? Not true. Just absolute fabrication of what's going on around you. Also, this game is not going to be good. This game is not going to be close. Kentucky blowing up Florida is not a big deal. Utah blew up Florida at home with a backup quarterback to open the year. Florida's not good. We would look at Florida very differently if they don't take care of business in the second quarter against Tennessee. Tennessee doesn't have a meltdown in the swamp. Everyone's looking at Florida through a different lens. They're a terrible road team. That's just how they've been under Billy Napier. Kentucky has kept it quote unquote close. Like last year was just a mess in Lexington. It was technically close, but I don't think the game was ever in doubt for Georgia. They're not close. They're just ugly. And that there's a big difference here with Kentucky and Georgia because Kentucky can only play a certain way. But we're now getting to the point where it's like, oh, this is the year. And I am like the part of like the whole, this is going to be an intriguing game. No, it's not. This is not going to be an intriguing game, Matt Green. I'm happy for you that you're getting a night game. I'm happy for you and Georgia fans that they're going to do this. Maybe you get some black uniforms. Probably not because I don't think.
We don't do that.
No. That being said, Devin Leary's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the SEC to this point. He hasn't had to do a lot, but we talked about it on last week's show. Yards per attempt were super low. He didn't do anything worth noting against Florida. It was all Ray Davis on the ground. I don't think Ray Davis is going to be able to do that against Georgia. Devin Leary's going to have to attack Georgia through the air. He is going to have to push the ball vertically. He is going to have to be significantly more accurate than he has been to this point. He has not. Here's the bad combination. He hasn't been accurate, and Kentucky has the highest percentage of drops among Power 5 teams. Barian Brown's not even healthy. The receiving core doesn't look great. This is not going to work. Kentucky hasn't beaten them since what, 2019?
2009.
2009, excuse me. 2009. I was like, when I saw it 19. Yeah, no, that's wrong. 2009. The last time, this was amazing. I saw this on Twitter. The last time the sport has had a first-time national champion was the last time sport like who's lost as the number one team at home in this capacity was like 1996 when Steve Spurrier was at Florida. An SEC team was number one in the country coming off national championship season. It just doesn't really happen. Like Georgia's number one. They don't lose home games.
What is hold on. What's your stat? You're saying reigning national champion losing at home?
Yes. SEC team. It was.
That hasn't happened since 96. Are you sure about that?
In the SEC.
Okay. Oh, in the SEC. Okay.
Yes.
That's a crazy number.
And it was Spurrier. So anyway, all that being said, I just don't think this game's close. I think Devin Leary implodes. I think Kentucky is bad in this game. It's one of those, they've played nobody outside of the Florida game. They chalk up a lot of dubs early in the season, make it look a lot more interesting. No, I don't think this is going to be close. I think Carson Beck gets home. He grew a lot in the second half. I think they go to Brock Bowers a lot. I think Georgia torches Kentucky through the air. Florida wasn't able to do that. Graham Mertz completed a lot of passes. He just didn't push the ball down the field against this Kentucky secondary. I think Kentucky's not going to be able to push the ball downfield. I think their receivers are not good. They have a lot of problems there. You're not going to be able to run on Georgia. I think Georgia wins and covers easily. I'm going to say Georgia 45, Kentucky 14 in this one, Matt Green.
I don't know if I see that sort of offensive explosion. I think that's what Georgia fans have been kind of waiting for. I think, and it almost feels like the Alabama thing. Like, oh, they're mad now. You're really gonna see. Oh, no. This week, now you're really gonna see Georgia, what they're made of. And there's a chance maybe this team just isn't as good as 2021 and 2022, and this is how this team's gonna win football games. And the defense has been good, not great. The offense has been good, not great. And I do respect Kentucky, but from a Georgia, like on a national scale, like what Mark Stoops has done with Kentucky, like they're night and day. How consistent of a program they are every year, like kind of how far he's increased how far he's raised the floor at Kentucky is just insane. But from a Georgia perspective, like there's really no reason to think Kentucky can beat you. Like there's just on the road at Kentucky, like some of those games have been kind of ugly and Kentucky's been close. But like you've really only seen like the bad teams for Georgia play Kentucky close for the most part. Like Kirby Smart's first year or like the Joe Cox season, it's for the most part, Georgia's been the superior team in this rival or whatever you want to call this series. But like, because 2021 is one year that's talked about like it was close because like they won by like 17, and it's like Kentucky had like an 11-minute drive to score a touchdown with like 30 seconds left. It's like the game was never really close. So the last couple times they've gone to Lexington, Georgia's offense really hasn't done much, but I think in this one, I think Georgia is starting to find what they are offensively. And, maybe it's just an average running game to keep teams honest, but the passing game is really where this team's strength is. And obviously Brock Bowers is the best player on this entire team. And you just got to feed this dude. And as he goes, the offense will go. So you look at what Auburn did to Georgia a week ago, and how they were able to run the football on them. I just don't think Kentucky can recreate that same type of running attack. It's like just without the quarterback being involved, it's a completely different animal. And like you said, Devin Leary has low key been terrible this year. And like this was supposed to be one of the sneaky games on Georgia's schedule coming in because Devin Leary had the potential to be like the best quarterback in the SEC with what we've seen at different times in his career. And he has not been that so far. So I ultimately do agree with you that I think Georgia will handle business because I don't think, like I said, Kentucky hasn't scored more than 20 points on Georgia since 2016. So I think Georgia definitely gets to that 20 number. So I don't think there's much, to worry about as far as losing the game. But as far as the spread goes, that could be close. I could see this being a 2-touchdown game and Kentucky covering the spread, but I could also see, Georgia putting up like a 31-3 type of thing and just locking this offense up. So I tend to think that Kentucky will be competitive for a couple quarters, especially if you see Georgia's offense start slow again, like it has in the first few games. But I ultimately think they'll cover. Give me 31-16. That's still covering, right?
Oh wow,
they held them to a couple field goals.
And here's more of the stat on the CFP home teams. So this is from Kentucky Sports Radio. Since the inception of the CFB playoff in 2014, number one team has never lost at home. Only 4 number one teams have fallen in the regular season in that time, and all of those games were on the road. Number 21, Texas A&M at Alabama, or beating Alabama at home. Notre Dame beat Clemson at home. Auburn beat Alabama at home in 2017, and then Alabama beat Mississippi State at home in 2014. So it's never happened in the CFP era.
Wait, you said Mississippi State?
Yeah, Mississippi State was number 1 in 2014, remember?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the reigning national champion.
Well, that's the other part of it. So,
okay.
Yeah, it just expands more. It's just very rare for guys to go down at home in this era. So
yeah, just Kentucky has not been that big of a challenge for Georgia in recent years. So they're a quality program, but yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I think a lot of people are overreacting to the Florida win and kind of what this. And I mean, there's reason to think like you ran all over Florida, Auburn ran all over Georgia. We can run all over Georgia too. Like, yeah, maybe. But I think playing at home versus playing on the road, it's a whole different thing. But maybe they'll bust out the black jerseys, but I'm doubtful. But we'll see. It should be a good one. Hopefully not too good, but hopefully we're experiencing a Braves win and a Georgia win on Saturday night. And let's keep it moving, sir. What do we have with our next game? Maryland is at Ohio State, and the Buckeyes are a 20-point home favorite in this one. I feel like if it was on the road, it might be a sneaky game. Maryland offense has been really good so far this year. But how do you see this one going, sir?
I mean, I agree. Last year we saw it. Like, this was a really close game late a year ago, and you had that weird pick interception that Ohio State does with the sack in the end zone that turned into a pick. Remember? That was just really weird. That kind of changed the whole game last year. But Taulia Tagovailoa has been exceptional this year. The OC change for them has been huge. Mike Locksley's really got a really good staff cooking here. They're one game away from bowl eligibility, and we're not even into the middle of October. So shout out to the Terps for a great start to the year. All that being said, this is my lock of the week in terms of covering. Maryland's covering 20.5 at Ohio State this weekend. Ohio State's made some strides. They get a big win at Notre Dame, but I don't think this is a dominant Ohio State defense yet. I think they're really good. I don't think the combination of where they're at offensively, Marvin Harrison's still banged up. He's going to play, it looks like, but he's banged up. I don't trust Ohio State to just blow out a top 25 team in Maryland, even at home. I think this is going to be closer than people think. I think Ohio State obviously wins this game, but there's some positives about where Ohio State's headed. Their 2023 defense is one of their best pass defense in metrics since their 2019 team that was number one in passing yards allowed per game. So they're right there. The Ohio State passing defense is really good. It's part of the reason I like their matchup against Penn State more than I like their matchup against Michigan at the end of the year. But, I mean, Taulia has been really good. He torched Indiana, who's been really bad, and they just fired their OC, Walt Bell, this past week. Doesn't look good for Tom Allen, excuse me. And he had 352 passing yards, 6 total TDs. He actually leads the Big Ten in passing yards and passing touchdowns. So he's been electric. We've focused so much on J.J. McCarthy, Kyle McCord, Drew Aller, that you just forget that Taulia has been exceptional through 5 weeks at Maryland. So I think Maryland ultimately loses this game, but I do think they cover. So give me the Buckeyes. Let me get Buckeyes 28, Maryland 20.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of seeing this game similar. I'm not sure how good Ohio State is offensively yet. Like, they've only played 2 games versus Power 5 competition, and both of those have been on the road. So, like, you've seen them put up 50 and 60 against, Youngstown, or I guess they only put up 35 against Youngstown State, but 63 against Western Kentucky. So, like, I tend to think Ohio State, I am kind of leaning into that. I think this defense is really good. I think this could be one of the best defenses in college football this year, but I'm not sure the offense is there. But they still have the weapons that, like, they're always going to be dangerous. But I'm with you. I like, ultimately Ohio State wins this game, but I think Maryland keeps it close. So I'm thinking like 31-21. Ohio State wins this one. But right, Maryland, like you said, Maryland covers.
Where are we going next?
Keeping this one moving. The Washington State Cougars going to the Rose Bowl at UCLA. UCLA is actually favored in this one by 3.5 points. How do you see this one going?
First big win of the year for UCLA. This is where the magic stops for the Cougs, unfortunately. I think they've had a great start to the year, obviously, but UCLA has been sneaky good in a lot of key areas. Ben Arbuckle, youngest OC in the Power 5 at 27 years old, doing a great job for the Cougs. But the last time UCLA and Washington State played, they came back and won 67-63. Obviously, that was when Mike Leach was there. They had a 29-point fourth quarter. I think they were down like something crazy, 30 plus in that game. But Arbuckle, man, like he has been electric at Washington State. And I think they've had a different OC each of the first 3 years with Dickert taking over. But they're fifth in the nation in total offense, 532 yards a game. That's great. They pass really high, 405 yards. But here's the biggest part of this. I think Cam Ward, who's been electric, he doesn't turn the ball over. As we talked about at the beginning of the show, he's in that group of 100 plus pass attempts and no picks. The problem is I think they're going to put up a lot of yards on UCLA, but I trust UCLA's defense not to break here. I think this UCLA defense is legit. They have only allowed 1 touchdown in each of their first 4 games here. UCLA's defense is actually sneaky good. Their offense is built to run the ball and play ball control. They're right there with Utah, and we saw that went. Dante Moore is obviously electric, and he has made big strides of late. I think they play their style, and I think Washington State's not able to put up a bunch of points on UCLA, and that's kind of how UCLA wants to play this year. So I think UCLA gets this win at home 21-13 UCLA. I think this is very low scoring, and I think Washington State gets the most trouble they've had all season on offense.
This is probably the game I struggled the most with, going back and forth, because I feel like there's something to like coming off a loss, coming back home, like first loss of the season, like let's reevaluate things. It's hard to ignore like 14-7 last week at Utah. And like the 7 came, like a minute left in the game. Like they barely scored the 7. But that was on the road. So they're coming home to Utah. Washington State, like I was definitely doubting them going into last week versus Oregon State, and they got that win. I think I'm just buying the Cam Ward hype, man. This guy's 13 touchdowns and no picks on the year. I think UCLA feels like that team in the Pac-12 that's going to be like right in the middle at the end of the season. That they're like, if we're going to have like 3 or 4 teams win like 10 games in this conference, like someone's got to be losing these games. And I feel like UCLA with a freshman quarterback, it is going to be better at home this week, but I think I'm buying Washington State. Give me Washington State going on the road, like 30-27. They get this one done.
Okay. Where are we going next?
We've had some good disagreements so far. This will be an interesting what this does to the standings. Let's keep it moving down to the ACC. We got Syracuse Orange and the North Carolina Tar Heels in this one. North Carolina comes in as a 8-point favorite at home. How do you see this one going, sir?
I think this is like the classic one. If it's in the Carrier Dome, then I'm probably going Syracuse. But on the road at UNC, no chance. I'm going UNC at home to win and cover. Drake May's been great all year long, just kind of quiet. And UNC's just hanging around. UNC people have forgotten about. They beat South Carolina to open the year. They struggle with App State. But they're going to be in the ACC title game. And I think they're going to give Florida State all they can handle in the ACC title game. And I would not be surprised if they could beat Florida State. They have the better quarterback, and they've been more complete all across the board. I think we can have a Jordan Travis conversation later. But North Carolina, second in the country on third down conversions. I think that's going to be huge. They're better in so many different ways. Like, they're in the top 50 in sacks and passing efficiency on defense, red zone defense, first down defense. Like, they've improved. Like, we've made a lot of Gene Chizik jokes over the years, but the defense is not elite, but it's also not a disaster that's been the last couple of years in the Mac Brown era. I think they're more balanced than we've seen in the last couple of years. I wish you had Trez Walker with Drake May in this group this year, but I think they keep rolling. I don't think this is where UNC goes down. I think they're on their way to 10-2, 11-1 type regular season. So give me the Tar Heels to win and cover. Give me UNC, but I do think Syracuse's defense is legit, and I think they're going to give UNC some problems, but at home, give me UNC 35, Syracuse 20. Give me Syracuse 20.
Yeah, I mean, this Syracuse defense has definitely improved. Like, but you look at like this Clemson offense is nothing really to be necessarily impressed by. Like I think North Carolina's offense is significantly more dangerous than Clemson's offense, and that team was able to beat Syracuse 31-14 a week ago. So that was also at home. So I don't see this team going on the road. Like we said, like that at Pittsburgh, like that felt like a dangerous spot for like kind of an unpredictable North Carolina team. But the fact they were able to take care of business in that one, I agree. I think they handle Syracuse pretty easily, like as easy as North Carolina can, because I feel like every game is interesting with them. But give me like North Carolina, 34 to 21.
Okay.
So we agree on that one. And North Carolina is the last of the Blue Bloods of basketball, I think, to be standing. Keeping it moving. This is a dangerous one. Notre Dame Fighting Irish going on the road at Louisville, and the Cardinals are a 6.5-point home dog. How do you see this one going?
Interesting. This is sneaky important for Louisville for Notre Dame, excuse me. They cannot look ahead to USC. Like that's right around the corner. You get that at home. Your season's still right in front of you. I think the CFB is still actually within reach. People have kind of penciled them out with the Ohio State loss, but I think they're going to hang around. They don't have to play in a conference title game. Like Notre Dame getting USC at home and the rest of, like they can go into Clemson and win that game based on what we've seen there. So it makes it significantly harder to avoid that second loss, but I think they're going to be right there. And their strength of schedule is actually really strong. And that's the other part of it. It's like you look at the schedule at the end of the year, you're like, man, Notre Dame actually went through the woodshed here to get to where they are. So I think they're rolling with their tight ends, as we talked about in the recap show. Audric Estime has been great on the backfield. I think they're going to be able to control Louisville more than Louisville's had to this point. Jack Plummer's been sneaky great for Louisville, so him reuniting with Jeff Brom was huge. But Louisville's 34th in run defense in the country, and I think that's going to ultimately really hurt them in this one. Is that I think Notre Dame's going to be able to keep the ball, keep Louisville's offense up the field, kind of dominate possessions in that way. And look, I mean, the biggest thing for Notre Dame, this is the best offense they've faced to this point. Like Louisville's 15th in passing offense in the country right now. And I'm curious to see what Notre Dame does in the secondary because they haven't been tested in this way to this year. So I'm curious to see how that goes. It's at Louisville. It'll be raucous environment, but I don't see Notre Dame losing here. So I think Louisville gets their first loss on the year with Notre Dame coming to town. But I think it's close. I think this is going to be a really close one. Maybe comes down to the wire again. I think Louisville covers. So give me Notre Dame 34, Louisville 31.
This is one I kind of struggled with too. It's just because it's such a weird position that this game's coming in. Like Notre Dame's, coming off of Ohio State and Duke, like two games that just came down to the final snap basically. And then they got USC next week. They just got this at Louisville just sandwiched right in the middle. It feels like a dangerous trap game, but I don't feel like it is a trap game because Louisville's kind of got some momentum coming to this game as well. But I feel like everyone was picking Louisville preseason to be like a dark horse team, but only because of the schedule, not because they actually thought Louisville was good. I'm kind of leaning more towards Louisville's not actually that good of a team, and I don't. Are they as good as Duke? With Riley Leonard, assuming he comes back and is healthy, I think Duke's a better team than Louisville. So, I think Sam Hartman gives Notre Dame just a certain floor, and I think if with a more inexperienced quarterback, I think the third game of this kind of 4-game gauntlet they have here in the middle of the season might be too much, but obviously they lost to Ohio State in one of those games. But I think Sam Hartman allows this team to kind of just stay steady and perform to their ability. So give me Notre Dame to win this one and cover. Not easy, like a 24-17 type of game, but this team put up 13 points, Louisville, against NC State a week ago, and NC State does not look very good at all. So it's different when you're at home or on the road versus at home, but I like Notre Dame to win and cover in this one. So you said Louisville to cover though, right?
I did.
Okay. Let me get that for our records. And let's keep it moving. What's our next game here, sir? Texas Tech going on the road at Baylor. The two teams that the Big 12 wishes they could just kick out. They're just making the whole conference look bad, dropping games to FCS programs and G5 schools. But how you see this one going? Baylor's a 1 point home dog or home favorite? Yeah, Baylor's
Home
1
dog.
point home dog.
This is my home dog of the week, Matt Green. Baylor's going to win this game outright. I think Texas Tech's kind of having the season from hell. Taylor Shook is gone for the year, I believe, and then Blake Shapen comes back in here, and he had a great game against UCF, especially late. So I think Baylor maybe saved Dave Aranda's job last week, and Blake Shapen being back has actually been a really big turnaround. Obviously, people are going to remember the Timmy McClain crazy fourth down conversion, but Baylor still ended up winning this game. He went 21 to 34, 293 TD, ran for one. I think Blake Shapen gets this group back on track. I think Baylor takes care of business at home and wins outright. Give me Baylor 38, Texas Tech 31 in this one.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. Just going like Texas Tech is not they've definitely been underwhelming. Both these teams coming in at 2-3. I feel like when in doubt, I gotta just side with the home team. Like at least Baylor's lost to some good teams other than Texas State. They've lost it. No disrespect. I don't know what Texas State's doing at their level. They could be the number one team in the country at FCS for all I know. But they, like losing to Utah and Texas, like I'm not really gonna hold that against them. Like Texas Tech's over here losing games to West Virginia. They did lose to Oregon as well, but at West Virginia, I guess I can't hate on that. We know how dangerous a place that is to play. But
also,
these
West
two
Virginia's
teams,
sneaky good.
That's true. Yeah, we got to put some respect on your boy. Oh, Neil Brown.
Does he get an extension?
We were called for his job for sure before the season started, but I don't know. The quarterback play has definitely been something to be desired for both teams in this one. So I feel like when in doubt, I just gotta side with the home team. So give me Baylor to win this one as well.
All right.
And we got one more.
Yeah, we got
one more. Fresno State going on the road at Wyoming. Wyoming is a 5.5 point home dog in this one. Obviously, like we just talked about, they beat Texas Tech early on in the season. How do you see this one going?
I didn't realize that how high above sea level War Memorial Stadium is, Matt Green. Would you like to guess how many feet above the sea level it is?
What's a mile? Is it 5280? Is that what a mile is? Or is it 2580? 5280? I don't know. I'm going to say it's 5,000 feet.
Close. 7,220 feet above sea level.
Wow.
Like it's tough to play in Wyoming. We talk about Colorado and the elevation and what that does. Wyoming may do it in a worse fashion here. I think this is a huge home advantage with the Fresno coming in here. Problem with Wyoming, they're 2-6 in their last 8 games against Fresno State. They commit a lot of penalties. They're in the hundreds in team penalties this year. Their offense isn't very good, but they play in the highest elevation in FBS college football, Matt Green. I don't know if Fresno State, because this is kind of close and Wyoming beat a good Texas Tech team there to open the year, I think it's just something different. So when Wyoming's sitting there at 4-1, when they're pretty good, when they're solid, I think they're just going to walk into a lot of home wins here. This advantage, man, I think it's sneaky huge. So give me Wyoming to get the upset and give Fresno State their first loss. Give me Wyoming 24, Fresno 21.
I see you picking against the Bulldogs here. I'm gonna have to go ahead and disagree with you on this one, sir. I like Fresno State. They're ranked. They're carrying the Mountain West torch. Give me the Bulldogs. They're going undefeated this year.
Okay.
Or at least this week.
That's
6-0.
We got a long way to go, sir. Like putting that out there is kind of wild.
I mean, they're 5 down, 7 to go. They can get it done.
All right.
But let's see. We got Fresno, Wyoming. We got some disagreements here, sir. This should be an interesting week.
This is gonna be fun. Still some good games, some big ones, especially OU Texas and Bama Texas A&M and Braves playoffs. And then if we'll watch the second half. Hopefully it's a close game with Kentucky Georgia when the wife and I get back from date night. I might be like, all right, let's just see if they're making use of our time. But it's gonna be weird. No Tennessee football.
And a quick story. I wrote this note and I forgot to say it while I figured we were even talking about. Was it the LSU Missouri game? You said someone taking crazy shots, and it reminded me of this story from when me and my brother used to referee youth basketball. And this coach it was like the buzzer beater, right? Last 2 or 3 seconds. It's like when they're like still on the floor with the kids. Like this is probably like 5, 6U or something. Like it was very small kids. And this coach, he's like right up behind the kid dribbling. He's like, crazy shot time. It's crazy shot time. And because they were about to shoot it from half court. And it was always the funniest thing to me ever. It's like crazy shot time because it's like, they practice that, right? It's like they were 6 years old, 5 years old, practicing basketball, and they're shooting from half court because this coach is like, hey, you got to be prepared for anything. Crazy shot time. That's what they called it in practice. It's like, hey, you know what time it is. We practice this. Crazy shot time. Just made me laugh. But I thought of that while you were talking. I wrote a note and I forgot to say something.
Crazy shot time. That's funny.
So I think it every time where someone's shooting a buzzer beater, hey, it's crazy shot time.
That's funny. Matt Green, always a pleasure. And I'll talk to you in a couple days.
Yes, sir.